For years, Ghanaians have lived with a familiar frustration. The lights go out without warning. Businesses grind to a halt. Families sit in darkness. Fridges warm up. Generators roar to life across neighborhoods from Accra to Tamale. The word that defined this suffering became one of the most politically charged words in Ghanaian life: Dumsor. But in April 2026, the government of President John Dramani Mahama is saying something bold. The outages you are seeing right now are not Dumsor. They are the sound of a nation fixing its broken power grid, one transformer at a time. Ghana's electricity distribution network did not collapse overnight. It degraded slowly over decades of underinvestment, growing urban demand, and aging infrastructure that was simply never replaced. When the Mahama administration took office and ordered a comprehensive assessment of the power distribution system, what engineers found was alarming. Transformers that had been running for over 20 years, some for longer, were still in service. Overloaded, worn down, and operating far beyond their designed capacity. The country's population had grown. Cities had expanded. Estates, industrial zones, and new communities had mushroomed across Greater Accra, Kumasi, Tamale, and beyond. But the infrastructure feeding electricity into those communities had not kept pace. The result was a distribution network stretched to its breaking point. Localized outages became routine. Voltage fluctuations damaged appliances. Communities in fast-growing areas like Spintex, East Legon Hills, Lashibi, and Sakamono experienced repeated blackouts, not because Ghana lacked power generation, but because the wires and transformers carrying electricity to homes and businesses were simply too old and too overloaded to deliver it reliably. Ghana's electricity distribution network did not collapse overnight. It degraded slowly over decades of underinvestment, growing urban demand, and aging infrastructure that was simply never replaced. When the Mahama administration took office and ordered a comprehensive assessment of the power distribution system, what engineers found was alarming. Transformers that had been running for over 20 years, some for longer, were still in service. Overloaded, worn down, and operating far beyond their designed capacity. The country's population had grown. Cities had expanded. Estates, industrial zones, and new communities had mushroomed across Greater Accra, Kumasi, Tamale, and beyond. But the infrastructure feeding electricity into those communities had not kept pace. The result was a distribution network stretched to its breaking point. Localized outages became routine. Voltage fluctuations damaged appliances. Communities in fast-growing areas like Spintex, East Legon Hills, Lashibi, and Sakamono experienced repeated blackouts, not because Ghana lacked power generation, but because the wires and transformers carrying electricity to homes and businesses were simply too old and too overloaded to deliver it reliably. Execution began in early April 2026, and the pace has been aggressive. Phase 1 of the program targeted 6 primary substations in Accra: Adenta, La Teshinungwa, Nmadzor, Batsona, and Lashibi. At each site, old transformers operating at 26 MVA were replaced with higher capacity units rated at 39 MVA. A significant jump that greatly improves the load handling capacity of each substation and reduces the risk of overloads triggering outages downstream. Phase 1 at the Nmadzor primary substation was completed successfully. Phase 2 then moved to the Lashibi primary substation, where a 26 MVA transformer was replaced with a 39 MVA unit. ECG engineers worked around the clock and completed the Lashibi upgrade ahead of schedule, restoring power to affected communities sooner than expected. In the Tema area, upgrades were completed at key substations. Work has also been underway across Accra West, including communities like Chorker, Mamprobi, and surrounding areas. ECG confirmed that approximately 11 primary distribution transformer upgrades are ongoing in Accra alone, with the program rolling east to west and south to north across the capital region. The northern region is also receiving significant attention. During a 2-day Resetting Ghana tour of the northern region on April 19, President Mahama personally visited the Northern Electricity Distribution Company's facilities in Tamale to inspect transformer replacement works already underway. The president assured Ghanaians that electricity interruptions in the north are temporary and form part of the same deliberate infrastructure upgrade being carried out nationally. NEDCO confirmed that it is set to receive 500 transformers from the Ministry of Energy to address ongoing power challenges in Tamale and surrounding communities. At the Barikam primary substation, a new 26 MVA transformer is being installed to relieve an overloaded 10 MVA unit. A similar upgrade is planned for the Wa primary substation. And at the Techiman bulk supply point, Ghana Grid Company, GRIDCO, is installing a 66 MVA transformer to boost bulk supply capacity in the Brangahafo corridor. The minister confirmed that the national rollout will reach Kumasi in the first week of May 2026, where 4 new primary substations are being planned alongside distribution transformer replacements and new cable infrastructure, all targeted at stabilizing power in Kumasi and the broader Ashanti region. The political dimension of this story cannot be ignored. Dumsor became a defining issue of Ghanaian politics in the mid-2010s, costing jobs, damaging businesses, and fueling public anger that shaped election outcomes. The fear of its return hangs over every conversation about electricity in this country. When outages hit Accra in recent weeks as the transformer upgrades began, social media lit up with comparisons to the dark days of load shedding. The government moved quickly to push back on that narrative. Energy Minister Jinapor was direct. The outages you are facing are not Dumsor. President Mahama echoed the same message from the northern region. The Ministry of Energy's communications director urged the public to exercise patience, explaining that temporary interruptions are a necessary part of installing the upgraded infrastructure. The distinction matters. Dumsor was a crisis of insufficient power generation. Ghana did not have enough electricity to meet national demand, and the grid collapsed under the weight of that shortfall. What is happening now, the government argues, is the opposite. It is deliberate, planned, and targeted. Engineers are upgrading infrastructure in phases. Outage schedules are being published in advance. Communities are being notified. And in at least one case, Lashibi, the work was finished ahead of deadline. The broader context is the Mahama administration's ECG corporate strategy for 2025 to 2029, a 5-year plan to modernize Ghana's electricity distribution network, reduce system losses, improve revenue collection, and advance the country's energy transition. The transformer program is the most visible early deliverable of that strategy. But it sits alongside a wider set of reforms that ECG says are aimed at addressing the financial and operational weaknesses that have long undermined the power sector, including high system losses, inadequate revenue collection, and rising upstream costs from power generation companies. The Tema ECG district alone spent over 13 million Ghana cedis on transformer replacements across the last quarter of 2025 and the first quarter of 2026, covering 54 units in 6 months. That figure illustrates both the scale of deterioration in the network and the pace at which the utility is now moving to address it. Ghana's power sector story in 2026 is one of a country trying to catch up with decades of deferred maintenance, and doing so in public, in real time, with citizens watching and judging every outage against the promise of better days ahead. The transformer program is ambitious. The scale is unprecedented. The execution, at least in its early phases, has been faster than expected. But the full test of this initiative will come in the months ahead, when the upgrades reach Kumasi, when the 500 transformers arrive in Tamale, when the new primary substations come online, and when ordinary Ghanaians measure the results not in press releases but in the steady glow of a light that stays on. President Mahama has staked political credibility on this program. The government knows that Ghanaians have heard promises about power before. The transformers are in the ground. The work is underway. Now the country waits to see if the lights stay on.